Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here are your supernatural hosts, Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasen. Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my guest co-host, Helene Olson. Welcome, Helene.
Well, thank you, Patricia. Thanks for having me on again. It's a lot of fun.
It is so much fun to have you back on the show. And, again, our prayers go out to Becky. She is facing some very challenging health problems, but we wish her all the best, and I know a lot of people are sending her prayers, which is so helpful. But in the meantime, we are going to have an exciting show tonight. But let me check in with you. How are you? What have you been doing?
Oh, Patricia, you know what my life is like. It's busy, always something going on, and I don't know. We'll talk about the weather again, just to talk about it, because
that's
so
just something we have to do. It's
we have
Helene
to
thing.
because we're in New England. Yeah, I mean, New England is, so changeable, and today it was so humid here. I don't know what it was like out your way, but I was like, wow, we can't stop complaining, Patricia. We had that bitter, dark winter, and now we've got humidity, and it's like, oh, no, it's going to get hot. Can't win, right?
I know, but I'd rather have the heat, I got to tell you. Those cold temperatures just about did me in. So, yeah. I had a beautiful, warm day today, trying to figure out what I'm going to plant in my garden and all of that great stuff. And you know what? I did my most favorite thing. I know a lot of people think I'm weird because I like this, but I really love to mow the lawn.
Yeah, you're weird, definitely.
I am weird. I know it. And today I got to mow the lawn, but then in the middle of my mowing the lawn, it started to rain. I had to stop. So
yeah, but you don't have a lawn, Patricia. You don't have a lawn. You have acreage.
Yeah, I have acreage. So I
so
get on that
riding
mower.
On the mower. Yeah.
Get on that riding mower and
fun. Yeah.
I go. Yeah, and it's great. It's like, I feel like I'm connected to nature, even though I'm on my mower, which is kind of noisy. But it's just a great time. But anyway, so mowing season has started here in the hill towns.
Well, I'm behind. I'm behind with my little herb garden and my few vegetables I plant. So I got waylaid with other things in the family. So that's the way it goes. They'll go in next week. It'll be fine. That's
okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're near all the great health food stores and all the places that sell wonderful stuff. We're out in the middle of nowhere, so we stand a good chance of starving to death if we don't grow our own food. So best that we do.
I kind of agree with that, but it's not that extreme.
It feels that way.
But I am blessed. We have lots of farmers markets and lots of farms locally and Whole Foods and all that kind of thing. So we are blessed with that. I have a lot of choices,
Yeah, it's true. You do. And, last time we were on the show together, we were talking about those very strange pictures that showed up on our Reconyx trail cam. And they're posted at supernaturalgirls.com. If you haven't seen them, everybody who's listening, please take a look because there's a nice slideshow of some very weird stuff that showed up during the day. And you got to check it out. It's just very, very cool. Now, I sent these photos over to the experts at Reconyx last week. I'm waiting to hear what they have to say. So we want to know what you think these shadows are. In the meantime, as soon as I get word from Reconyx, I'll post their answer as well. So the mystery continues.
fascinating. They were.
It is.
They are extraordinary photos. People should go over and take a look at them, yeah.
Yeah, very weird stuff. Very weird. And there was a UFO sighting, a big one, an unidentified flying object. Here's our paranormal news tonight, over Jerusalem. Apparently
Again?
it was over this Dome of the Rock temple.
Yeah, Dome of the Rock. Famous place.
Yeah,
very, very historical, very biblical. They had an issue at Dome of the Rock, was it a year or two ago, where that light came out of the sky, bounced on the dome, and all kinds of security cameras caught it. It wasn't like a hoax or anything, and nobody could figure out what it was. Yeah.
Well, now they've got another one, and apparently this thing was flying over the buildings, and it emitted 2 successive flashes of energy, and I guess then it was gone. So another sighting in that same area. So somebody wrote in and they said, are aliens trying to contact us to warn us, or are they waiting for us to exterminate each other so that they can just take the planet without resistance? Interesting question, huh?
Wow. I don't even want to look at that question.
I know.
That's
makes
heavy.
you think. Really makes you think. Well, we've got a really great guest tonight, Thomas Michael Caldwell, and he is a tarot reader extraordinaire. He's an expert. He's a scholar. He's someone who has studied tarot for many, many years. I just can't wait for us to talk to him. But I have to tell you, Helene, Thomas did a reading for me. And, you know, you and I, we've had a million readings through the years. And Thomas gave an incredible reading. He's very different in the way he approaches tarot and the way he approaches reading. But I got to tell you, he boils it down to brass tacks. At the end of that reading, I felt like I had a map. And this is what I had to do. This is what I had to pay attention to. This is what I had to rein in. This is what I had to go for. It was all crystal clear. So I highly recommend Thomas as a reader. If anybody's looking for a tarot reader, this is your guy. And he was amazing. And, you know, lots of times, you know, people look at these esoteric symbols and they give you the meaning as it is to them and as it appears to them along with their intuition. Sometimes it's a little airy-fairy, but that's not at all the way it is with Thomas Michael Caldwell. It is real stuff, real solutions, real energies, and it helps you navigate. It just really helps you navigate. So we got to bring this guy on. He's fascinating. He's had a fascinating life so far, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be even more fascinating. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patricia. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show with Helene and I. And first, please start with your background. You've had quite a journey.
Oh, yes, a lot of hills, valleys, everything in between. It's been a long one. First off, before we start today, tomorrow's Mother's Day, and I know that there's a lot of mothers here, and I think all of us have mothers, whether they're still with us or not. I at least hope so. I know you're talking about some of the news you were listening to. I still think the scariest thing I've heard so far is that you like to mow lawns.
That is scary,
really,
isn't it?
That's really a cult right there. But I just want to I think it's just nice that we just say Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Whether you're a mother, whether you are married to a mother, whether you have a mother who's with you or has passed on, it's a good day to celebrate them. So that's what I just wanted to say.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Tom.
So nice.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, my background. Okay. Well, okay, I was a child of the 60s and reached maturity in the 70s. That right away says a lot. I grew up in New England, Connecticut. I know that you're there, Patricia, and it didn't suit me. I think that when you're born in this world, you pick your parents sort of as last result sometimes, or at least where they're living. And when I got to the age of majority, I said, this isn't for me, so I sold everything I owned, which wasn't a lot anyways, in late 70s, early 80s, and I bought a one-way ticket out of the United States and to the Far East. And I like to say I traveled the world and decided to stay. And I settled in Japan in the early 80s, and I remained there. I didn't so much remain there, but I used it as a base of operations for a time I did spend in Hong Kong, and the Far East was much of my tromping ground, and Africa and other places, Europe, of course. But I basically was in Japan for most of that time, and I lived in the central part of the country, traveled extensively, and in the 80s, it was a pretty exciting time to be in the Far East.
Now, were you on like a mystical journey? Were you drawn to Japan?
No,
not at all.
No. Well, what was going on behind the scenes, as it were, your guess is as good as mine. I like to think maybe it was preordained, although I don't think everything in our lives is preordained, or most of it isn't. It's just that I needed to get out of the U.S. It just wasn't a good time. If you remember the late 70s, that was not a nice time.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't, and then the 80s started coming in. And I mean, in the 80s, the late Robert Anton Wilson split the United States, and he lived in Ireland for most of that time, I believe. But it just wasn't me. I just wanted to see the world, and I just packed up everything and had some cash in my pocket, a one-way ticket to Hong Kong at the time, and just left and just went on the adventure. And eventually, I settled in Japan. I got into the media business. Communications is something I've been at and still am. I got into a very exciting thing called international trade, and I was just a typical business guy in my 20s mostly. But it was a very magical country, except I really didn't appreciate it until I got much older. In the late 80s, early 90s, when the first Gulf War happened, a lot of economic things went wrong in the world, especially in the businesses I was in. I was also involved in political work. I did public affairs advisory, which is something that's interesting to get into, and I'll talk to you about that later in the show because I'm still involved in that to an extent.
Okay.
But anyways, I was a very materialistic person in the 1980s. I didn't really have a spiritual side I was addressing. And when you kind of go from being very, very successful to very, very not, it does level you out, as it were. And I'm sure everybody has had that time in their life.
Oh, yes, yes.
And in the early 90s, I started to examine different spiritual traditions. And one of the things I got into was the Western mystery traditions. Even though I was living in Japan, Buddhism, although I've studied it and I've done my time in temples and things like that and done the meditation practices, it was as has been said by many people, it was like having a Windows computer running Mac software, or vice versa. You're a Westerner, you're immersed in Eastern culture much of the time, but then again, if you're in a major city like Tokyo, you're involved in an international culture, which was wonderful to develop in as an adult, because I had friends from dozens and dozens and dozens of countries, and it's a wonderful way to be. You get to see the way the world really can be if we do get our act together as a species. But to go back to this, I started studying Western mysticism and the works of the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, and the Thelemic Path, and other things such as Wicca. I started studying all these things. I also studied the Eastern mysteries. I studied Buddhism much more intently, and some of the other esoteric traditions of Japan. And it was during that I got involved in tarot, which was originally for me a spiritual development tool, and still is. I still use it for that, and I think all people do to some extent or another. But it's something that I ended up finding out I had a real talent for. Now, in the mundane world, I was involved in media. I worked as a mainstream journalist. In fact, if you listen to radio in the 1990s, I did a lot of radio reports and some TV. You probably heard me on occasion without even knowing it was me.
So you were just doing regular newscasting and things like that?
Just regular news. I was doing regular news for a major news organization in the U.S., and I did work for various government broadcasters from around the world. I was once temporarily assigned to the White House press corps when Al Gore came to Japan, and I got to see his presentation on global warming long before people generally knew he was seriously interested in that. And I mean, when it was literally an overhead projector sort of deal he was working on. And
oh my!
So I was in the center of it. I was in the center of the news business before it changed very drastically. And the 90s was a bad time for the tradition of American journalism because it went from being a real integral part of our society and civilization to being an entertainment business. And that's a different discussion. I don't want to get going there. It's too negative and it's too disappointing. I was trained by people who were trained by Ed Murrow to show my lineage in that direction. So
wow.
Providing news to millions of people was considered something of an honor and something of a highly important discipline. And I don't get the impression that the people in the news business think of it that way anymore. So
no, I think you're right about the entertainment side of things. But let me ask you about when you first started, because now you've gotten into all the different things you were studying, and that you had a talent for tarot. Did you just pick this up on your own, or did you have somebody teach you?
At first, I took it up on my own, but then eventually teachers can come into the picture. When you start getting into some of these different esoteric groups or occult orders, and I'm a member of several of them, and I have been a member of others, you come in and you have to pretty much learn things by yourself. But when you get to a certain level of self-development, teachers show up. And several started showing up in my life after getting at this for several years. And that's the thing about tarot, or that many people don't realize. There's a few good tarot schools out there. There's a few good schools that will teach you how to learn this, and there's brilliant. The one that I just came back from the Reader's Studio, which is a gathering in New York City that happens every spring, every year, and that's my big vacation of the year, as it were, and that's put on by the Tarot School of New York City, which is a brilliant organization, and I would highly recommend them and their work.
I had no idea there were schools for tarot. So there's one in New York.
Well, there is. It's called the Tarot School. There are other groups. I'd rather not go into all the different ones because I don't want to leave
that's okay. I was just surprised.
I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah.
I have heard of that, actually.
You have. You're way ahead of me. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But
Didn't mean to
interrupt.
The thing
about tarot schools is they're not like a university. They're not like Harvard or Yale or Caltech or something, because it's more of a lineage. Now, I studied martial arts in Asia, and I don't know if either of you ladies did, but martial arts is something that is passed on as a tradition and a lineage. In other words, I studied karate in Japan, and I can tell you my lineage back, a couple hundred years or so, all the teachers and things. That's very important. It's not just for ego purposes, although I'm sure in some traditions that's there, but it's to basically show that you did learn from people who learned from people who learned from people, and there's an accumulated corporate knowledge. And that's the way tarot is. Tarot is not something you just go and get a diploma in because it's an art and a science, but it's something that you've learned from other people and who they have learned from. And one of the people I've learned from is Lon Milo Duquette, who I think you know very well, Patricia.
We both know Lon very well.
Yeah,
he's one of our very favorite people in the entire world. He's great.
And I actually, in my publishing company, we sell his tarot deck, but that's another discussion we'll have later in the show, I guess. But Lon is somebody who learned from Israel Regardie, and Israel Regardie learned from Aleister Crowley. And I don't know what exactly all of his lineage, but he's part of my lineage. I have other teachers I've learned from. And I have other teachers I have yet to learn from I probably haven't met yet. So you end up developing a lineage, which is why tarot, it depends on who you learn from, that I think really shapes how good a reader you are. Not just the books you read. The books are important, of course, and books are a great way to learn from other people you might not ever meet, but to actually get that hands-on discussion and to share that energy. And tarot is all about energy. I think that's very critical and very important.
I've got a question for you from the chat room. Somebody wants to know if there is a good book on tarot that you would recommend for a beginner.
There are a lot of them. For a beginner, well, I have some news for the everyone's a beginner, and we never stop being beginners. A friend of mine once said, we're all beginners just at something else. At something different. We're all beginners just at different things. I can't recommend a book per se. I could recommend a course. The very best course that is available is a tarot school, and it's an organization called the Builders of the Adytum. Have you ever heard of it? BOTA.
No.
That BOTA.org, that's probably the best course you can take in initial tarot to really understand it properly. And their web address is bota.org. And
Great.
they've been around for about 100 years, and they're very inexpensive. And the best stuff usually doesn't cost a lot of money. And that was put together by a man named Paul Foster Case. So if you want any books, you want the books by Paul Foster Case, who set that organization up. I would recommend their course, which lasts about 15 years if you do one lesson a week.
Wow.
It's a lot. And I've not made it to the end of, even though I've been taking it myself for 15 years. There's a lot there. But any of the books by Paul Foster Case for the beginner, I would say that's probably a good place to start. The other thing I would urge people to do if they want to study tarot is learn the traditional tarot. And by that I mean what's called the Rider-Waite, the Waite tarot. And that's or similar to what's taught by the BOTA. And the reason why is I started off with the Crowley-Thoth tarot, which is far more advanced. And I think in retrospect I would have done better if I had learned the traditional tarot prior to moving ahead into the more advanced decks, because it's like trying to do trigonometry and not making it into and not understanding algebra sort of thing.
Well, and there are so many decks out there right now. I mean, there's literally hundreds of them, aren't there?
There's thousands and many thousands, but you want a deck that the traditional decks, the traditional Waite decks, the ones that are based on Kabbalistic colors and corrected to that effect. You don't want to get something that's just a novelty deck for collectors. You want to get something that has the proper colors, and you want to get something that has the proper names and titles and attributions.
Okay.
And any good, and if any shop selling tarot cards will show you what those are.
Excellent. Good answer. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So you learned that you had this natural ability, and then you also studied on your own, and you had teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, if people want to have a reading with you, I'm going to repeat this several times during the show. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I have a website, Tarot by Thomas, one word, tarotbythomas.com. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. Just send me an email message through the site, and I'll get back to them. It also has links to other things I'm involved with there. So that just explains how I do it and the philosophy and what I'm about. Now, just to go into, you want to know why I had this. I'd say I had a natural talent, but I do believe just like studying anything, if you put enough years into it, you're going to be passable at it. And it's a matter of dedication. Like theoretically, all three of us talking right now could be brain surgeons if we put enough effort and energy and resources into it, but it doesn't necessarily mean we'd be good ones, or it doesn't necessarily mean that we would enjoy the job, or it's something that I think everyone has the ability to learn, but to really, really learn it well requires many, many years of dedication. Now, when I got into this and I started to do it professionally, I was very pleasantly surprised, because in growing up in the States, whenever you heard tarot readings, you think of some gypsy fortune teller on the street corner who's going to scare somebody out of their inheritance,
right,
or something to that effect. And that's the stereotype. But in the Far East, in places like Japan or China, especially Hong Kong, Taiwan, it's something that is treated with a great deal of respect and reverence. I mean, I ended up doing readings for very, very senior executives in some companies, very wealthy individuals, who would have me go to their office and do a reading based on very large business deals, whether or not their company should merge with another company, who should be appointed the next president, or who should be appointed to the board, sort of thing. And very suit and tie sort of stuff, and that was something that was a very interesting world to be a part of. And that's something you don't really see here very often, but you're seeing that change.
Really?
Yes.
So this happened for you in Japan, where you kind of were in this inner circle of business people, and so you would go in and you would sit down in their office and actually do a reading on business to them, and
yes,
to them it was normal.
Yes, it
or
was
at their home. Okay.
This sort of thing, and there's other people that would use other systems. They would use Japanese divination. They would do palm reading or whatever. if you got the reputation of knowing what you're doing, people would seek you out, business people especially. It's not uncommon in that part of the world. It's not something that's laughed at. It's not something that's treated with disrespect. It's not something that's probably flaunted, but you wouldn't say, hey, I got to get back to the office. I have a tarot reader coming by to talk to me about a merger and acquisition. But it's something that would be, it's something that is accepted and is something that is respected.
Now, is tarot respected, say, more than palmistry, or is there a kind of a hierarchy of divination?
It depends. It depends on the individual. My particular system is tarot. There's other people who would use the I Ching. They would use the yarrow stalks, for example. There's other people who would use shells. There's all sorts of systems. They don't care about the system so much as whether or not you're able to give them the information they need. They wouldn't care if you were flipping soda bottle tops, in theory, at least. But the fact is that tarot was something that they do associate with Westerners, and bringing in a Westerner to do something, they would expect me to use a Western system as opposed to, say, the I Ching. Right. So it just worked out that way.
Very exciting, my goodness. So you must have met some very interesting people in the business world.
Very interesting people, yes, very interesting people.
And so you would go in and they would present to you a question, or how would you start a reading like that with a business person in Japan?
Well, it would be an introduction through word of mouth. It isn't something that would be advertised necessarily in a magazine. Most readers do street reading. I did street reading for about a year, which was a real adventure. That's when you actually set up on a little booth on a street, and at night on a Saturday, saying people would know you were there and they'd show up and ask for reading. But how it would usually work is somebody would contact me, usually an executive assistant, saying, Mr. So-and-so would like to know if you can come in and give him some advice or something to that. And I'd say, okay. And we'd set up an appointment, and I would walk in with an attaché case, and I would sit down in his office or a conference room, and we'd be given privacy, and we would then do a reading based on a question he had. And, of course, confidentiality is the utmost. I will take the names of the people I've done this to the grave. That's the sort of confidentiality that is required in this line of work. And he would just ask me questions, and we would go through it. Having a business background is, of course, very useful in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if he's talking about PE ratios or something, I know exactly what he's talking about, or she, in some cases. So, or if it's career, very often it was a career move. I remember having a client who was asked to become the CEO of a major company, and it was a politically very difficult appointment, and I can't really go into any more description than that. And it was whether or not it was the right decision. And another deal I did was a real estate. One other reading I did was a deal involving a massive amount of money in a real estate transaction, and that was an interesting time as well. And in the end of it, the executive took the job, and it was very successful. And the real estate deal basically was indicated it was a bad deal, and it turned out to be right. It was a bad deal, and it didn't go down.
Gosh, so your reputation got around town, so to speak.
At a certain level it did, yes, but it wasn't something that I was never on television. I was never, I never had people pursuing me or anything. It's a part of the world where secrecy is kept and respected.
Exactly. And did you stay with the original tarot deck? I know you said you started with something other than the Rider-Waite deck.
I still use it. I use the Crowley Thoth, and I still use the same deck.
You do? Okay.
I have had it for a couple of decades, and it still has served me well. And I keep it. It's sitting on my desk right now, actually. And it's an old friend.
Oh.
It never gets. Let's just say it never gets into check bags.
And you keep it close at hand. You keep it safe. Well, Thomas, we're going to take a very short commercial break. Everybody stay with us. If you have a question, you can call in at 646-478-0828. We are speaking with Thomas Michael Caldwell about navigating your life with tarot. Stay tuned, everyone. We will be right back.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Bonjour, this is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980 I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.CosmicFusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Helene Olson and myself here, Patricia Baker. We are speaking with tarot expert and reader Thomas Michael Caldwell. So, Thomas, with tarot, I know I was one of those people that could not wrap my mind around the Rider-Waite deck. So I discovered the Voyager deck, and that's the one that I work with all the time. And when I first started this, I just did it every day. Is that something that you would recommend to people, that they start doing readings, practicing every day?
Well, I think the best way to start is to use what is called a daily tarot meditation, which you just take a single card at random and meditate on it. And remember something about tarot is it's been developed over centuries. And let me just explain what basically tarot is. Tarot is the Kabbalistic tree of life in card form, at least the standard 78 card deck, and it represents the universe. And you say there's a lot to wrap your head around. Yeah, well, the universe is a pretty big place and a pretty big thing, and that's a lot to wrap your head around. Again, the thing I recommend is start with something that's Kabbalistically correct, which means the colors are right and whatever. Then you can move into other decks. But it has to work for you. I don't use it a lot, but I do use about 6 or 7 different decks for different reasons. The Crowley Thoth deck really works with me. Of course, the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic I use a lot, not just because it's a great deck that has all the correspondences on it. It was done by Lon Duquette, and I also have a company that produces it, which helps. But what's important to do is to integrate it into your life. Now, a tarot deck has 78 cards in it, and there's a mystery to it. There's a mystical side to it. But again, I've always taken a very practical, scientific, hermetic scientific view of it. In other words, if you do something consistently and it has consistent results, there's a certain reality to it. And what I think is a good exercise is to understand the story behind the tarot and the fact that the tarot, for example, the traditional tarot happens in an entire garden. You're actually looking at a garden going on. There's relations with the numerology going on. For example, to give you an example, the moon is 18, okay? Mm-hmm. And if the traditional view of the moon card is of a dog and a wolf and a crawdad coming out on a path between 2 pillars. But what is actually happening is at the very top of the mountain you see in the distance is the hermit. The hermit is 9. If you take the moon 18 and add 1 and 8, you get 9, which is the hermit at the mountain in the distance. So there's a lot of little things about that does help to get a good grip on things. If you take these 78 different cards and look at them differently over a different problem, you're going to, by definition, look at things with a new perspective. And it's always by looking at... Just
picking a card every day and then meditating for a few minutes, or just even holding that card in your thoughts all day will give you some insight.
Well, you can't really hold a card in your thoughts all day. You have too many things to do in the modern world. If you do that, you won't have much of a lifestyle, I'm sure, after a while. But 5-10 minutes is really enough. 5 or 10 minutes
good.
Is really enough.
That's doable.
And that's very doable, and it's a good way to start your day, just looking at one of the cards and understanding its meaning. Not exactly what you think it means, but maybe the traditional meanings. You see, it's like a science. You don't go to a laboratory of a chemical laboratory and start randomly mixing chemicals. That's not a good idea, and it might get you killed. It's a good idea to learn how the periodic table of elements works and the basics of chemistry before you go off and try to invent something. So I do come from a very orthodox background, you could say, with tarot, in that I do believe that you have to learn the basics and the fundamentals before you can really go off and experiment on your own. But I think that's a good way to start, just one card a day. Doing an extensive spread every day for yourself can be very, it could be a bit much at times. Mm-hmm. Sometimes just a single card a day is best. I still do the single card a day, occasionally a small spread if something big is going on.
Now, there are some cards in the deck that can be concerning to people.
Okay.
For example, the death card.
Yeah.
Tell us about this card.
Well, that card, I can talk to you about the 3 that nobody likes. There's a bit of a joke that if you work a party, they always say, take out the devil, take out the tower, and take out death. We don't want any of our guests upset. And that actually there are people that do that. I am not one of them because I don't think there's such a thing as a bad card. It's just a matter of a situation, and it's all a matter of perspective. I've got a couple of good stories on that. Well, first off, I don't like the question, what's your favorite card? Well, they're all my favorite cards because they're all part of one's life. Let me give you, the death card, basically death is what? It's when something ends and something begins. I mean, how many religious or spiritual traditions do you keep hearing where they're saying, well, don't be afraid of death. Death is nothing to fear. You're going to go to heaven afterwards. You're going to reincarnate. But then it's fear of the unknown. In the Crowley Thoth deck, the death is actually underwater. And most people don't know that. There's fish swimming around him, and it represents taking all of the decayed matter at the bottom of the ocean and churning it up so that the fish will be able to eat it and move on and such things. Death is merely the closing of one door and the opening of another. And that can be a great thing. So if I'm doing a reading in someone's career, it's, oh, death, that's wonderful. And they kind of immediately are taking back. And you have to put the philosophy. But the two cards that I think scare people more than death are the Devil and the Tower. And let me give you an example of the Devil. The traditional tarot card shows a man and a woman standing tied to a cube, usually, with the Baphomet-like character up at top. And they're both naked and they're both chained. However, if you look very carefully at the traditional images, the chain is big enough for the man or woman to take it off their neck and walk away.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that's what that means. And that basically talks about illusion, the danger of illusion. The devil's the danger of illusion. Okay? So when you see the devil show up, usually it means that something isn't what it should be or that you're kidding yourself. How many people have you met in your life who really have everything going for them, but they're going to be depressed or they're going to sit down and say, I don't have anything going for me, and it's often that they're just chained to something awful and horrible, and they could easily just take the chain right off of their necks and walk away. But because they're told that they can't do that, they won't do it. That can apply to a lot of things.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Helene, did you notice that? Because I know you use that Rider-Waite deck, correct?
Yeah. I have lots of decks, but the Rider-Waite always calls me. And it's remarkable, the journey you've had, Thomas. I mean, you've really spent a lifetime studying every signal, every sign, every connection to the Tree of Life with the tarot deck. And
not every one.
Some of that.
That is that's a very long path. And I don't think I'll finish it this
long,
lifetime.
But you've gone a lot further than most people. Okay, so it is amazing. But I wanted to ask you a question about tarot itself. Now, I have met a couple of people in my life, and I've studied tarot on my own for years, okay, not traveled the world the way you have or anything. But I've met a couple of people over the years who use the tarot as a tool. And so they've never read a book. They've never studied anything. They've never picked up a description. They don't understand the symbolism, yet they throw those cards down and they read them like a book.
Mm-hmm. That's not surprising.
And so to me, the cards are reflecting back to the reader's mind.
Mm-hmm. The mirror, we call it the mirror of the soul.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that those people can be as talented as someone who studied for years and years, or do you think there's a big disparity?
Yes, I think they can be, and here's why. You're dealing, you have in 78 little cards that you're holding in your hand a map of the universe, and it's been said by several people in tarot history and magical history, if you take someone and give them a set of good, accurate tarot cards, like a universal weight, which I'm a fan of, and you put them in a prison cell, and with nothing except maybe food going in and out of the slot or something, and they're just stuck with nothing but those tarot cards for years and years and years and years and years, they'll eventually understand everything there is to know about the universe. So I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I think that there's something in the tarot, and since it is basically a representation of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, as is the human form. I think that if you spend enough time with it, you're going to pick this stuff up whether or not you've read a book or at all. I think a book will make it easier. But I do think that there are people that can do that, and I've met such people as well.
Well, it's interesting about the tarot because when you pick up 5 books about the meaning of each card and the symbolism on them, you'll actually get a referenced, slightly different meaning of each card. Mm-hmm. And my perspective has been that people have to decide for themselves what it means to them so that their cards will reflect back to them. What do you think of that?
It's an art and a science.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a doctor. You go to the doctor, the doctor will have a lot of scientific knowledge at his or her beck and call. But at the end, they're a craftsman. A good doctor's a craftsman, and they're going to use their intuition, they're going to use their feeling, they're going to use their observation, just like a good tarot reader will. So it's a combination of the science behind the tarot, but it's also a combination of the person's personal experiences and perception skills.
Fascinating.
That is. Gosh.
Yep.
So if we can just get back to the devil card again, I really love this.
That's one of my favorite cards, you know.
Is it really?
Well,
oh,
yeah.
Well, then we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Why?
You know why it's one of my favorites is because it has such deep meaning associated with it. And in certain spreads that I do, there is a way when I read, and this is maybe unique to me, I'm not sure, that when it comes up next to certain other cards in that spread in certain positions, it actually means something good. And it can occasionally.
Well, I think all the cards can mean something good.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I don't see it as a negative that way all the time. Sometimes you do, of course, you know, but it's really interesting. It's a very deep card, I think.
The card that I think has, again, I like to say I don't have a favorite, but the Tower is one. I went through a very difficult time in my life some years ago. I had gone through a divorce, and I had, left my home, and I was in a bad state, but I had a home and I had a job to go to and from and what have you, and I was walking by a very dilapidated old house in the neighborhood I had moved to. Now, in Japan, houses don't last longer than 20 or 30 years. They're built that way, and the whole system works that way. But this was a very sad, old, dilapidated house that obviously hadn't been lived in for some time. The family that lived there had long since moved away, and it was just a rotting shell. And I was walking by it, going to work in the morning and coming home at night, and it was there. But then one day, I noticed that scaffolding had been put around it and a sheet. And over the next couple of days, it had been torn down. And then I saw the lot had been vacated. Now, in Japan, they don't just they have a lot of mystical traditions, and I could see that there was a pile of dirt, and there had been, it was basically an altar had been set up for the blessing of the new construction going on. That had happened, and it was still there. It had happened earlier in the day. And then over the next several weeks, a new house rose up. Okay, and then eventually I was walking by, and I saw the family show up, a husband and his wife and 2 children, and there was their brand new home. And that's what the message of the Tower is that for anything to be made good again, you have to destroy the old to create something new out of it. An old building will be torn down. Here's this old home, and you're not going to try to rebuild it or save it. You just get rid of it, and then you replace it with something brand new. And that was the Tower House, I used to call it whenever I walked by. That was reminding me of my own path in my life, because my own life had been destroyed, really. It was gone. And I was rebuilding something new. And that was a way of the universe reminding me, hey, you something's been destroyed, and now you're rebuilding something new. It's going to be brand new. It's going to be shiny. It's going to be wonderful. It's just going to take some time. And that's the message of the Tower. So that can apply to anything. It can apply to career, it can apply to relationships, it can apply to all sorts of things.
So it's reassuring.
And I have seen,
it can be reassuring in some way.
It is reassuring, and there are some readers who will get a couple of cards that don't look very pretty, and suddenly your whole world is black, and you're involved in all this negativity. And I don't think that that's the message of the tarot cards at all, ever.
No, nothing's written in stone.
Right.
Nothing is absolute certain. Anybody who believes that the future is completely preordained in their life, I challenge them to put a blindfold on and go walk on the middle of an interstate highway. They will not last very long.
No.
And their life is not preordained. One fun thing I like is when the Wheel of Fortune shows up. And notice we're only talking about the major arcana here, which is the building blocks. But the Wheel of Fortune has something on it that a lot of people don't get, and that's a wheel. which means if you want fortune, you're going to have to move. It implies motion. And you'd be surprised
now, does it implies moving from one place to another? Because I've also heard that it talks about staying in the center of the wheel as things move around you.
Well, yeah, it can mean that too, but the whole message is movement. If you want to have success in business or career or life or anything, you're not going to just sit there on your sofa and let it come to you, because it's not going to. Small chance it might. You might win a lottery or something, but if you want really fortune, you're going to have to put motion into it. And that's an important message of
so that's a card of motion, and Chariot is a card of motion also.
Chariot
right?
is a card of motion, yes. It's more of a generic one. Again, these are cards that have so much deep meaning in them. You could probably have an enormous book on each and every card in the deck. And I know of some people that have made that many notes for it.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm going to ask
my
you a
notes
question.
aren't that extensive. Sure.
I'm going to ask you a question that's a little off subject, but I believe the tarot is a door, and I have noticed that spirits will come through the tarot cards and speak. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Not. You're thinking I something like in a Ouija board, you mean? Something like that?
Oh, I don't like Ouija boards.
No, okay.
But it is kind of a door, so do a reading for someone, and instead of getting a reading for them, I'm getting grandma coming through the cards.
No, I've never had anything.
Something.
I've never had anything like that.
You've never had that?
No, I've never heard of it except now. No, I think that you're dealing with a map of the universe, which would imply that everything that exists, but I've never experienced sitting down and having some unwanted entity showing up.
No, they're not unwanted. They're not unwanted. These are people that are loved by the person who's sitting.
No, I've never had anybody that ever happened to me, nor have I had a reading over. I have had people that have said, well, what do you think my dead grandmother wants or something, and it never really, I said, it's not really what it's about. It's about you. It's not about somebody who's already passed on.
Interesting.
Now, when you do readings for people, Thomas, do you find that the readings are somewhat different based on their culture? Because here you were reading for a lot of people in the Far East, and their culture is very specific and to mysticism, and they have, as you mentioned, a very different culture than us here in the United States. Did you find the readings actually take on a different flavor because of that?
It's taken in a different way, but people all over the world want the same thing. At the end of the day, everyone wants to be happy and fulfilled. That's something all humans, no matter who they are, or where they are, or what they are, want. And they want to see, they might have more of an emphasis on their children being successful. You know, you've heard about Asian tiger moms.
Oh, yeah.
That's very real. You know, what's wrong with, what do I have to do to get my son into XYZ University or something is a question I've had. You don't really get that here, but it's something that is just taken a little bit more seriously and with much more intent. Humans have more in common than what separates them. I know it is a different culture, but at the end of the day, they want to have decent families, they want to have decent lives, and food in their stomachs, clothes on their backs, and roofs over their heads. It's a human consistency. It doesn't matter if it's in the Middle East or if it's in the Far East or if it's in New York City or Hollywood, California. It's the same motivation. You have to have certain cultural sensitivities you have to take into consideration. But those are usually, they would apply to anything, whether you were involved in a business deal or you're doing a tarot reading or you're going to invite someone over for dinner. There's a certain cultural aspect of any relationship with anyone from another country that you have to consider.
Well, that makes sense. May I ask you about the Hanged Man? That's another card that I know a lot of people don't like to see in their reading, but maybe you can offer some.
Well, there's a lot. Well, first off, by the way, I'm giving very rudimentary, basic, partial interpretations of the cards I'm talking about. The Hanged Man is is a card, and I'm going to refer to a lecture. Is actually the Hangman's a hard one. I take that as a yogic sort of a card. In other words, using the position that the Hanged Man is in is actually a yogic position, but it originally came from a way in which criminals were punished by hanging them from one leg and crossing another. Most people may not know this, but when Mussolini was killed, they hung his body the same way. It was a form of shame.
Oh.
And that's actually the way they got rid of traitors or bad people in the old days. That's what they did with them. That's why they were hung just that way. But the Hanged Man, one of the better analogies would actually be out of the Christian tradition, where I was given and I'm trying to think of the source. I think, yes, it was one of the, it was out of a book on path working on the Tree of Life. And it was a reference to Jesus, actually. And when he was hanging on the cross, there were two groups in the crowd that were making his suffering very bad. One was the group that just hated him, that said, "Oh, you think you're the this or that, you're the Son of God, you're a blaspheming whatever," and throwing rock, the ones that really hated him. But the other crowd that was also making him suffer were those that loved him, saying, "Why couldn't you just stay at home? Why couldn't you just be a carpenter? Why couldn't you just have a nice, easy life? Why'd you have to leave us like this?" Because both of these groups were equally causing him suffering because they were not respecting what his particular will was, his particular mission. So the people in life that are going to cause you problems are the people that are going to really hate you, and the ones that are going to love you, so long as because both of them really, 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 and by the way, the word love, I mean that as a sort of, as a possessive sort of thing, not the real human love that we all need, but is anybody who's going to interfere with what your true path in life is not your friend, is not going to help you. That's one of the better stories I've heard about. That's a very short version of it.
So
but,
that's the Hanged Man then. It's people who
that's
want
part
to
of
stop
the
you.
Hanged Man. Again, I
know these are all. We're trying to go through these to give some insight, but they're much deeper than that.
The Hanged Man is a much deeper meaning than that. I'm just giving you a very rudimentary, partial meaning of it. I would say the Hanged Man is think of yourself as being yogic on your true path, whether that's suffering or not suffering, whether that is pain or pleasure. It doesn't matter. It's all about experience. Do you remember a horror movie called Hellraiser way back when?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That is a movie with a very, very powerful message, and that is the concept of experience. Not whether it's pleasurable experience or unpleasurable experience, whether or not it's experience. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so that's the way we look at this card. It's all fascinating.
Partially.
Yeah,
partially.
I mean, even though you're just doing rudimentary explanations, Thomas, I find what you have to say very insightful. So that's why I keep bringing up these different cards, because I know, people question, well, why is this in my reading? And you're bringing up things that I have not heard before. I mean, talking about the devil and how the chains are loose and you can remove them. I love that. I mean, that insight is so helpful to anybody who's working with tarot. So it's, again, you have such a unique perspective on this. It's very, very helpful.
The thing is not the individual card, it's the combination, but it's also the interaction with the person, the questions, and there's a lot more to it.
Sure. Now, talk to us about the types of readings you do. I know you do the Celtic Cross and things like that.
I use a few different ones. The Celtic Cross, even though everybody knows it and there's many different versions of it, it seems to work the best for an overall view of things. I use a simple 5-card spread for decision making. And, basically I go over when I'm dealing with a client, I go over their situation, which they want to discuss, and it's usually business, it's usually personal, family, relationship, or it's a very specific situation. And you go over the situation, and then you work with them. As I think I did the reading with you, Patricia. Is then we start making, let's get some guidance here. I call it guidance. Mm-hmm. A good tarot reading is not an absolute. It's a weather forecast. Okay, it's like a weather forecast.
Nice. Yes.
I'm the weatherman, and I'll tell you if it might rain or not, and I'll give you a percentage of probability. It's up to you to either carry an umbrella or not, or go out in the rain or not. And so
this is where, as we were discussing, tarot becomes a good navigation. It's kind of like a map if you know how to read it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'd say a map more than anything, or a way to create a map, or a way to create a path. When I do readings, I get into a very, very serious space with people who have very serious questions. Somebody comes to you for guidance, that's a big deal, karmically and otherwise. And if somebody's coming and they're going to talk about their future, I did work in the recruiting business many, many, many years ago, long before I got into any of this stuff. And one of the things that was drilled into me by the very ethical people I was working with was that, somebody changes their jobs, their life is going to be changing, and they better change into the right job, because if they have a family that depends on them and what have you, that's going to be a real problem. In the Far East, it's a very, very important thing that you really don't make a mistake with your career, because otherwise your family would suffer. Business is taken very personally there, because if somebody loses the ability to provide for their family or feed their children or get their children into a good school or something, that's a big deal. That's personal. People say, hey, it's business. It's not personal. Business is personal. I don't care what anyone says. It's very personal. Try explaining to your landlord you can't make your rent, or your kids that you can't get them their food. That's personal. So when someone comes to me, I take it as a great honor, but a great responsibility. So I'm not going to tell them what to do, but I'm going to help them decide what they're going to do based on what the situation is.
Well, and that's what I found so great about your reading. It does provide, you are providing some real choices with definitive energies, and you can take it this way or you can take it that way, but here's what is going to make the biggest difference. So, again, for people to find you, they need to go to
tarotbythomas.com. tarotbythomas.com. Just the way it sounds, one word. And that's a good place to find me.
That's excellent. Well,
and I'm able to give tarot readings using video and things such as that. I have a pretty good video system. And I do sometimes.
So people can do this via webinar kind of thing, via Skype, or via phone if they need to, right?
Yeah, I prefer a video. I can use Skype, but I also do use a video conferencing system, which I pay a little bit of money for, but it's worth it. I do have clients on the other side of the world, so sometimes I do get up in the middle of the night for a reading, and these are old customers of mine. So you have to go the additional mile, as it were, for people.
That's right. That's right. Well, everybody stay tuned. We're going to take another short commercial break, and we will be back with Helene Olson, myself, and Thomas Michael Caldwell talking about tarot. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the Source. With Cosmic Fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.kosmicfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com. Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Bonjour, this is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980 I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines, wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Michael Caldwell, who is an expert on tarot and a tarot reader. So, Thomas, we've been talking about using the tarot as a map, creating a map for the self, and also as a divination method. Can you also use the tarot and the symbols therein to focus on any of the cards and actually make a change in your reality? I mean, can you use it to focus your energy and make something happen?
Oh, well, yes. At the individual card level, it's not as easy as if you use several cards. But, again, the symbology here is based on many things. Now, the Hermit and the Moon, I told you about that earlier, right? One of the things I did when I was younger is mountain climbing, and alpine mountain climbing, which is a lot of fun and a real adventure. And when I first got into it, I had some very good teachers in that as well. And one was a Frenchman who had traveled around the world, and he had been he had been on a lot of adventures. And he said, and you look up this enormous mountain in winter where it's like 40 below zero and everything, and you're wondering how on earth I'm going to get up there. And he says that's not difficult. All you do is imagine yourself at the top and look down at where you are now, and just see from the highest point how you got there. And that is a way of, as you say, creating your reality. You want to first imagine where you want to be. One of the most powerful questions that a human being can ever ask themselves, and few people ever do, is, what do I want?
Interesting,
okay?
Yes.
And when I was first asked that question, in a form of formalized training, it took me about 3 months to answer it. Really, no, really. And people say, "What do you want?" "Oh, I want a car." No. What do you really want? What do you want? And that's a big question. And very few people ever sit down and ask themselves that and think about it and meditate on it. And that's probably one of the reasons the world is such as it is you have a bunch of people who've never sat down and says, what do I really want? What do I want? Not what do I really want, what do I want? Everything is reaction as opposed to action. So using tarot, and there's other ways to do it, but tarot is an ideal one, is you can basically just focus on different cards with that in mind and think, how does this work? The Emperor is somebody that everyone likes. He's a very Mars sort of character. He's an Aries, of course, but he's sitting on a throne. He's a person who's completely in control of his situation. Everyone wants to be their own emperor. Everyone wants to be the person. They want to be safe and secure in what they want to do. But the only way you're going to do that is to find out where you are and where you want to be, where you really want to be. Because if you're going to, you know the concept of true will that a lot of traditions talk about, of where you actually fit in. Is everyone's born? The belief is that everyone's born with a purpose in existence. Everyone is born with a mission or something to do. It could be somebody who's an astronaut. It could be someone who's going to be the head of a government, or someone whose job is to keep the floors clean at a school. And all three of those jobs are important.
Right.
Some have more responsibility tied to them, but they're all important jobs or all important missions. Okay.
Well, I love the question. I mean, it's again very profound, and as you mentioned, very few people ask themselves this question or even give themselves the time to meditate on an answer. And plus, we're also heavily programmed with all kinds of things we're supposed to want versus what it is we really want. So you've provided a very profound and simple question that would be good for people to sit and answer.
When I first started off, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, because here's a question coming in on the chat room. If somebody wanted to focus on financial freedom, abundance, what would be a good card to start that process for them?
Well, it wouldn't be so much a single card you'd meditate on, because all of them are tied. Here's a fact of nature. There's enough for everybody, but it's a matter of balancing the elements. Now, one thing I'd like to also mention, I also do webinars and training. In fact, I do one tomorrow. It's up on my website, and it's more geared towards people at a professional level, but anyone's welcome to join if they want to, sign up and pay for it. But one of the things I teach people, which is somewhat tarot related, but it's about balancing the elements. It's a webinar called Balancing the Elements. Now, let's go away from the major arcana for a minute. Let's think of the four minor arcana. They are discs or pentacles, wands, they are swords, and they are cups. All right? Now, what do those represent? Those represent the four elements of earth, air, water, and fire. Discs represent earth. The sword represents air. The cup represents water. And the wand represents fire. Now, what is earth? Earth is your body. Earth is your ability to take care of yourself. Earth is your living environment. Earth is the clothes on your back. It's the physical stuff that you need, okay, to keep going. All right? You have to be in good health to get anywhere.
Right,
Health
exactly.
is very important. Health is important.
Mm-hmm.
Health is very important. It's necessary. But you also have to be able to have food in your stomach, right?
Yes, that helps.
You have to have food. Nobody thinks about God or salvation or life after death or anything like that if they don't have any food in their stomach or any clothes on their back or a place to sleep at night. Now, air. Now, what is that? That's a sword. That's intellect. That's education. That's the training of the mind. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still there? Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, we are. I'm on the edge of my seat because I think this is so important.
Okay. Now, that's air. That's the swords. Okay? And that's someone's education. All right? It's not the same thing. Now, those two elements are different. One of the biggest problems in American civilization is people go to university, i.e. the element of air, in order to get a job, i.e. the element of earth. No, that's a big mistake. I've had many teachers who say, you Americans go to university to get a job. That's not what it's about. You go to university to train your mind and become a person of substance. And that's that's a mistake that this country made 150 years ago, and we're still paying for it, and paying for it badly. Okay?
Wow.
Now, let's go into cups. Cups is emotion. Emotion. Emotion is a very important part of being a human being. It's emotional health. A lot of people aren't very emotionally healthy in this country. One of the hardest things to see when you come to the United States from another country is the amount of obesity here. And it's not necessarily the food. It's the people who consume it because of emotional issues. I mean, there's some people with certain diseases, the hormonal problems, et cetera. That does happen everywhere. But the amount of people who are obese in this country is horrifying. It's a very hard thing to get used to in eyesight. And a lot of the reason for that is emotional problems that people don't address. And food, of course, and that ends up being a way of keeping emotional problems at bay. It's also
absolutely. That is absolutely true. Yes.
Emotional, being able to interact with other people, have good relationships. Okay? That's part of your emotional body. That's another element of cups. Now, the other one is fire. Fire is passion. I'm sorry to have to put a finer point. Fire is about sex. Sex is the creation force of the universe. And it's sad that this country can be so repressed in that department. A lot of countries are. I think a lot of countries could do better with. I think if there was, I can name a few countries that if people had better sex lives, they probably wouldn't have as many wars. But the fact is, that's about passion. That's about fire. That's an energy sort of thing. That's the creation force. Now, I just dealt with earth, air, water, and fire. And if you remember the good old Pythagorean geometry, you have the pentagram. Okay? The pentagram, traditionally, earth, air, water, and fire. Earth being in the lower left-hand corner, air being in the upper left-hand corner, water being in the upper right-hand corner, and fire being in the lower right-hand corner. Now, what do you have? If you have the right amount, the equal amount, the appropriate amount of earth, air, water, and fire, you have a pentagram that's balanced. And then what do you have? Spirit at the top. Okay? So when people talk about material wealth, you have to have the appropriate amount of material wealth in relation to the amount of intellect you have and mind power of air, as it were, and have it in proportion to the amount of emotion you're going to have. You have to, and if you look at where the pentagram is, it's too bad this isn't video, it'd be easier to show, but you notice that if you're going to have a good job and a good career, you're going to have to get along with people emotionally, right?
That would help.
You're going to have, I think it's pretty important in a lot of corners. So that has to be in balance. You look at a pentagram that's in balance, okay, with the right around a fire there, okay? And also fire is opposite of air, and intellect is sexy. Sexual energy is about intellect. It's in the mind. That's why pornography works. Okay, people get sexually excited over watching images on a television, which is nothing but a box of glass and plastic. Okay, but it's in the mind.
That's weird. Yeah.
Isn't that weird? It's the mind.
It's very weird.
It's all about mind. Yeah. So this is how these four elements balance together, and this is covered in earth, in the cups, and in the wands, and in the swords, and in the discs. And the idea is, if you want to have a good, enough money, you're going to have the other three elements in balance with you. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so that you're not just picking one card as a card of abundance and focusing on that. You're looking at everything as the four different elements in balance within you that bring you to the place where you feel that kind of freedom over finances.
You're going to have the freedom over finances when the other three elements are in balance, because you're going to need to be smart about your money. You're going to have to be emotionally able to handle things, and you're going to have the right amount of passion to put the energy into it to make it happen. You see what I mean? You can't just go one element at a time. They have to all balance together, and this is what's emphasized in tarot.
And your class tomorrow, is this what what are you going to be teaching? Tell us a little bit more about it.
That's basically tarot for business and career.
Mm-hmm.
That's an online course. That's going to be, it's geared a little bit towards people that do read a lot already. It's not really for beginners, but beginners are welcome. And I basically teach some very technical means by which you can use tarot to map things out in a business environment. And
what time of day is it going to be tomorrow for
that's
people that want?
I think it's 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's
okay,
limited
great.
to only. I have to say, there's only a few seats left. It's limited to 25 students.
Okay, and this is on your website, tarotbythomas.com.
Yep.
So people can go there and sign up if they'd like to take one of those last few spots. Mm-hmm. And if they want to have a reading with you, they can also go to Tarot by Thomas and contact you there. So this, again, there's just so much to talk to you about because you've done so much in your life. And I know one of the things you wanted to discuss with us tonight is your philosophy and about tarot in general and all these other businesses you're involved with. And the esoteric is becoming mainstream. It's just so exciting to all of us who've been involved in this forever and watched from the sidelines and hoped someday everybody would get it. It looks to be like it's happening.
Well, it's been happening for some time, and it's not, in here, I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was just at the Capital Tarot Society today, and we have government employees. We have people with top-secret clearances that are into tarot. I know of tarot people in just about every government agency you can name.
Really?
People
with top-secret clearances are doing tarot?
Actually, yeah. I know. Well, this is the thing is, remember, there's a lot of the sad thing is that there's a great deal of separation from the American people with their government, and this is really sad because I live and work in the Capitol, okay, and I am here all the time, and most people really don't understand how their system of government works, or the people they think that the people in government are all evil or something, and it just gets to me because I've been involved in various levels in my life, but but traditionally people into occult studies have easier times getting security clearances in some ways because they're not out like there's a lot of Christian fundamentalists that believe that Jesus is coming. There's going to be a nuclear war. Who do you want to trust with information? Somebody who believes that the best times of the human race are yet ahead, or someone that thinks that a mushroom cloud over the Middle East is going to be something good? Okay.
Interesting.
So it's not really an issue in that regard. Well, think of it this way. I don't know how long you've been involved in this stuff, but I remember if you mentioned in the 70s that you were into yoga, people would probably back off 2 or 3 steps and think you were crazy. Okay?
Yeah.
Whereas if you look down Washington, D.C., well, everyone's on their way to work. It seems that every other woman and quite a few guys have yoga mats slung over their shoulders. I don't know of any government agency that doesn't have yoga classes or international agencies.
That's amazing.
I'm so glad. Think about that. Well, think about that. That has become mainstream over the last 30 or 40 years.
Yes, and so tarot has joined that, as well as other divination forms. And I'm fascinated by what you're sharing with all of us tonight about people in government actually using these divination processes.
Well, I don't know if they're using them in decision-making. Maybe they'd make better decisions if they did, but I do know people who do at their personal level. They do use these things, yes.
That is so cool. Helene, isn't that exciting? I just love that.
Well, we've seen the trend go on and on. It's kind of amazing how mainstream and, the kind of calls that you get, and I get, Patricia, from people at all levels of society asking questions that are important to them, and it just really strikes me that sort of traditional, conservative, business people, teachers, whatever they do for a living, you wouldn't expect a call from them, but they call.
Yes.
And it's interesting that they're sometimes reticent to tell other people they're calling even now, but it's amazing who does call. And I also find a lot of men calling. And so, I think it's great. I really do. Yeah.
One of the things is that the titles conservative and liberal really don't mean anything anymore, especially in the political realm. When people are always looking for answers and they're looking for an edge. And this is what I learned when I was doing readings for some very high-level people, and I'm doing readings for high-level people now here. It's something I've gotten more clients on, is that anybody who's very successful at anything is going to look for every edge they can possibly get. I remember Jean Pierce. Jean Pierce was in Washington D.C. She was a regular in congressional offices. You know, the astrologer Jean Pierce. I used to walk by her old home, all the time, which is now a bed and breakfast. And she walked in some of the most powerful circles in D.C. There were stories that she did readings for Richard Nixon, actually, of all people. So it's not anybody who's going to be a success is not going to leave anything to chance. They're going to look at every possible option or every possible advantage they could get their hands on, and that includes good divination process using something as old and as respected as tarot cards.
Do you allow your clients to touch your tarot cards, or you don't?
I personally don't. Don't. I don't do that.
I don't either, but a lot of the books instruct you to.
Well,
which always fascinates
like any
me
book,
because, the tarot is an energetic
well,
tool.
This is the thing about occult and esoteric publishing is there's anyone can write a book on anything. And the thing that I do is I have a lot of books that I think are great. I've bought a lot that I think are awful, and I threw them away. But what I learned to do eventually is to really delve into the history of the particular author. Sadly, we lost one of the better tarot people recently. Donald Michael Craig passed on a couple of months ago. He wrote the book Modern Magic, but he wrote several good books, including one about tarot, using it as a magical tool. And I got to work with him in our online training at my publishing house. And he was a brilliant man, and sad that we lost him. But he's written a lot of great books, but he's a person that really had a good background. When you get this, remember that it's important to see where people actually have learned their stuff, but also how long they've been at it and what have you. When people have come to me with manuscripts that they wanted to see printed, I start asking them about their background. I said, okay, where did you get this from? How did you research it? And they get kind of taken aback that I really start grilling them on where they learned their stuff. And if they said, well, I found this one day, or somebody appeared to me or something, I'm a little more ruthless about the details, and you have to be. So you said there's some books that say you should let people touch your cards, you shouldn't. It depends on the individual. It depends on how they work. Again, when you get down to it, a tarot book, a book on tarot, is going to be based on what someone has learned and their own personal experiences. I do have a couple of books that are in the works. One of them will be about tarot, or will cover it heavily, and it's going to be my perspective based on what I've learned and the people who've taught me. And someone's probably going to read that and then add their own experience to it. It's a cumulative knowledge process. Again, you're dealing with the map of the universe. Nobody has the alpha and omega on that, and no one ever will. So
I have another question for you from the chat room. This person wants to know if you can predict someone's death with tarot. Is that possible?
I don't really think that's something that can be done. And well, first off, what type of death? If somebody has cancer, okay, and they come to me, you can do tarot to determine someone's physical health. There are correspondences to the body, and I have done readings for people, and at the end of the reading I said, it looks like something could be wrong here, so you really should go to a doctor. If a tarot deck, using a tarot deck and a reading to say someone's going to die 25 years from tomorrow, I don't think that can be done because I don't think that's set in stone. It's not set in stone. But if someone's very sick, I think that you might have that you would be able to do that. But someone who can say that they can read the cards and say that their death is set in and is not and cannot be altered, I don't really believe that. I don't think.
Okay,
that's,
and
that's
another question they're asking is, can you use the tarot to predict major events such as 9/11? Is that something that could actually show up in a tarot card reading?
I can't say yes or no. Here's what you can predict. First off, I'm sure you ladies understand how the collective unconscious works, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that is, and Nostradamus, who has been is an example of someone who's been both misunderstood and understood a little bit too much in both directions. The thing that got him was I think it was the accidental death of the French king, which happened the day after. He predicted it, and it happened the next day. You can predict things that are going to happen in the short term if you access the collective unconscious that Carl Jung talked about as a scientific fact. But you can't predict things that far into the future unless they are such a generality. Let me give you an example. You can probably predict 20 years in the future if the situation in which a war could happen is possible.
Okay.
The situation in which a war could happen. I know 20 years ago, I had people in Asia that were predicting in 20, 25 years in the future, the U.S. and China could be in a state of conflict. And I remember people saying at the end of the Cold War in 1991 that around 2010 or 2015, you could see Russia and the U.S. at each other's throats again.
Oh, boy.
Not there, and that turns out to be a little bit true now, isn't it? You can predict a situation, a very general situation, in which a terrible thing could occur. But to be very specific, no. I think that you have to remember humans do have free will. And things can change at the last minute. Miscalculations are responsible, and calculations are responsible for turning history. There's a Russian submarine commander who was given the order during the Cuban Missile Crisis to fire a nuclear-tipped torpedo at the American blockade. He was given that order. We found out, a few years ago in records. He turned down that order. He refused it.
No kidding.
Yeah. I don't remember his name, but it was a fascinating story, and it's now one of those what-ifs. Now, if he had fired that torpedo, history would be very different.
It certainly would be, yes.
It would be, wouldn't it? I mean, the human race came a hair's breadth from blowing itself up. And if that had happened, it would have. So, but that one man decided, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to belay that. I'm not going to belay that order. I'm not going to do it. So that's the power that human beings have. So you can't predict for sure. I mean, 9/11 could have been stopped probably 100 different ways. And for someone who was living overseas a long time, who was always traveling in and out of American airports, everybody knew that there were so many bad security procedures. It was only a matter of time before something bad happened. And I didn't need a deck of tarot cards to say that.
Right. That's kind of obvious.
One of the biggest mistakes that Americans make still, this is a bit off topic, is that they don't check people leaving the country. Most other countries do. They'll run your passport when you leave the country. That's how they determine who bad guys are. We still don't do that. And I talked to somebody once at a political thing who was with who did work with the TSA as a contractor, and I threw that at him and he said, how come we're not doing that? He says, no money. We don't have the money to do that. Oh, gosh.
Is it really? Well, I think we need to allocate some funds in that direction.
Well, yeah, but then people are saying, oh, you're invading their rights, whatever. But it's just, there's things that other countries do in the world that are pretty smart that we could also copy, but we don't because we think we have to reinvent the wheel as Americans, which is kind of silly. But that's
we have to be so politically correct. But I'll never forget what one gentleman said in London when he was interviewed, and they said, "Don't you get upset about being searched? So many times going in and out of stores or in and out of the wherever." Because as you mentioned, it's a very different mindset. And he said, I'd rather be searched 1,000 times than blown up once.
Yeah, that's a good line. That's a very good line.
It just makes so much sense. So,
Yeah,
but, it's a lot with tarot, and I'm going to weave this all together. I think there's a way that you help people understand their lives, and you help people empower themselves. So,
yes.
like the man who relayed the order to fire a nuclear warhead into the blockade, and like so many people who are willing to stand up for what's right, what has integrity, what has heart. That's where the huge and positive transformation can come from, and this is what your tarot readings really do support.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and there's a movement on for that. One of the biggest things that I think people are beginning to wake up to is that they actually do have control over their lives, and in the United States we have more control over our country than we've been led to believe. It's just a matter of embracing that power and responsibility, which I think is leading to a more positive movement. Now, let me give you an example of working the system here, because as you know, I'm involved in some political activism as well in an organization, nonprofit, that's recently been started up. Everybody has their own opinion on guns in this country. I'm not going to throw mine in. I don't think that's relevant. But there is an organization called the National Rifle Association, okay? Whether you love them or hate them, you have to admit that they're very effective, right?
Yes.
How many members do they have? Do you know?
I don't know how many numbers.
I would say it was millions.
4.5 million. That's all. Now, the 4.5 million in a country of more than 300 million, that's a very small percentage. But they have such control over gun policy in this country that we could have, up in Connecticut, that terrible tragedy that happened a year ago, where I think it was like 20. It was a god awful number of children.
20 children.
I don't even want to. I have a little child myself, and that just sickened me. Nobody even discussed changing the gun laws in the United States down here in Washington. It didn't even come into the conversation. That's how much power that organization have. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, you cannot argue with the fact that they're extremely effective. That's 4.5 million people. That's all. That's not and they support an industry which isn't really as big as others out there. It's certainly not as big as the automobile industry or computers or even retail. So what if people like us, which I'm sure number more than 4.5 million, and I mean people in the esoteric community, the pagan community, which is very large in this country, if we ever got organized enough, there's a lot more of us than 4.5 million, I'll tell you. We can also make a big change.
I like that. I think that would be great. The question is getting organized.
Well, that is the question. Organization and structure is the basis of anything, and there are people that are trying to do that. And there's links on my website to some of that. But I'm just showing as an example is that people have been one of the first rules, and this is about empowerment at the low level, at the individual level, at the high level. The first rule of power, of people that have power and are keeping power, is to convince others that they don't have any power. Okay?
Wow. Now, can you explain that?
Well, I'll give you an example. How many people out there are just throwing up their hands, oh, the system is completely corrupt, we can't do anything, all these big corporations run everything, I'm just going to go sit at home and watch TV.
That's what they do.
That's America. Yeah.
No, well, it's part of it. It doesn't have to be. Okay? And this is something that if you're going to believe what everyone tells you, you kind of deserve it. But the fact is, if someone says you don't have any power, you don't have any ability, you don't have any talent, blah, 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 you listen to them, you're not going to get anywhere. Everything changes for the individual when they realize that they as a person have value. I like to tell that to people. I said, once you realize, you say to yourself, I have value. I'm an invaluable being. I'm unique. And I'm a sovereign being. I have free will, and I choose to evolve. And that's a very nice little prayer I give people.
Oh, I like that one.
If you say that, I am a sovereign being, I have free will, and I choose to evolve.
Very
nice.
If
you really take that to heart, nothing can stand in your way. You could be on the street I think I told you, I don't remember the name of the company, but there was one famous coffee retailer, and we have plenty of them in this country, who actually was a street person at one point, and it came to him when he realized that no one was going to, help him. He was going to have to help himself, and he empowered himself. And that's all he did. It's just changing your mind, just saying, I have decided I am worth something. I have value. Okay? When
and
people
say
say you
that
don't,
prayer again so that people can write it down.
I am a sovereign being. I have free will, and I choose to evolve. And if you echo that through the universe, nothing will stand in your way. So one of the things about anyone at the top of a pyramid, whether they're good or evil, and usually and these days there's a lot more evil ones than otherwise, is that they want to convince the people at the bottom that they have no power. I mean, you hear about all these big corporations spending money on elections. But what are they spending that money on? They're spending money on people like you and me to vote their way. And I'll tell you what, there's companies out there that could throw hundreds of millions of dollars in my direction to try to convince me of something, and I'm not giving in.
Yeah.
So the only way they can win is if you're susceptible to their brainwashing, and they can throw $1 billion to try to convince everybody that the sky is orange, and if we cave in, it'll be orange. But no, it's blue. You see what I mean by this? They're all fighting to change our minds. So, hey, everyone, wake up! We have enormous power in this country. Okay,
we do.
We do.
We have
enormous power as individuals. We have the numbers, and as individuals, and this is what my clients, I try to find where their power is, because once you find their power, it's the base of their pyramid, and you can build something very beautiful out of it.
Now, how do you find their power? Is that the significator card? How do you find this?
Well, it's a process. A significator, I just did a presentation today, actually, to the Capital Tarot Society on significators. And a significator, there's many different ways to do it. The process I use is based on the birth date, and it's a way of cutting the deck. And that would be a lot to get into, and I see from the clock we don't have a lot of time left. So it's the process. The whole process of a good tarot reading is for a person to come to the realization of where the base of their pyramid is and how they should start building it to something that's going to be an immovable object that will last for a very long time, just like the pyramids you see in Giza.
Wow. Yeah, that's a real powerful thing, and that you offer that in a reading is invaluable, in my opinion. I mean,
everybody has something they're brilliant at. Everybody has something they're brilliant at. It's a matter of discovering what it is.
And it's a matter, like you said, of building on it, finding that original instruction of who you are, and then building on it from there. And so many people have lost their original instructions. They don't know who they are. And as you mentioned, we can't, many of us, answer the question, what is it that we really want? We've become just overwhelmed with Madison Avenue brainwashing and all kinds of other brainwashing along the way. So, again, with tarot, it takes you back to those archetypal symbols and gives you an opportunity to put the world as we know it to the side and look internally to see who we are. So it's great that tarot can offer that, and that you can offer that through those readings.
There was a trick that taught me something some years ago. As one of my teachers said, when you go back to the city, I was out in the countryside on a retreat doing studies of things, including tarot. He said, go back to the city. As soon as you get back to the city, count how many pairs of eyeballs from advertising, are going to be looking at you during the course of a day. Take a note. On billboards, on advertisement, on buses or trains or whatever. And I gave up after like 75. I just said, forget it. That's again, if you wish to be brainwashed, it's easy to cave in. But if you don't, all you have to do is just let go. What is that old Zen Buddhist term? Let go or be dragged.
Ooh.
Let go or be dragged. And
boy,
you don't have to hold on to something if you don't want to hold on to it.
That's right. It reminds me again of the devil card. That chain is loose. Yep. You can take it off.
That chain is very large. Just take it off and walk away.
Yeah. Now, another question has come up from the chat room about the devil card, and it is about addiction. Is the devil card also, can it be a symbol of addiction?
It can be, yeah, it can be. I mean, if you think of what addiction is also a form of illusion. Someone who's a heroin addict is under the illusion that, you know, they're living in a paradise or something like that, and they're not. You know, drugs are a very dangerous thing. I don't believe that they should be as illegal as they are in the United States. I think we've ruined a lot of lives needlessly of people that just wanted to experiment with consciousness changes. But drugs, I think the most dangerous drug in this country is alcohol. And television is another one. But yeah. But the devil, it can be about addiction. Addiction is something that I can get my experience with addiction is it is possible to stop it cold, including chemical addictions, because the most powerful thing in the known universe so far that we can be certain of is the human mind. That's it doesn't mean that there's not other species out there possibly, or there's other civilizations, but right now, and some people have different beliefs of whether or not people are here from other worlds or whatever, but one thing that we can all agree on, no matter what direction of the ballpark you're coming from, is that the most powerful thing in existence that we know of is the human mind. That's one of the reasons a skull was often put on you see skulls in paintings of mystics from ancient times, that's what that represents. The most sacred of temples, because that which a skull is, because that's what contains the human mind. When people talk to me about magic, I gave a presentation on magic and said, what's the most powerful act of magic in human history? And the definition of magic being the art and science of causing change to occur in conformity to will. I said, back in the 60s when we decided to go to the moon, that is the best example of that, because they just said, well, we're going to go. And they had no clue how they were going to do it. They just made it happen. They didn't, when they decided to go, and I got to meet people who were part of that process. I've known some of the astronauts over the time, and I got to meet some of the people that did it. And in retrospect, they said we're just going to go, and they made it. They had a deadline, and this is in a presentation I do. We didn't think that radio could work at 250,000 miles. We didn't think we could make a rocket engine that could be throttled. All the scientists said, it's impossible, whatever, but we made it happen. We didn't know how to do it, but we decided to do it. And that was a very magical time, and you were probably young at that time as well, and it's kind of sad that we started moving to the stars and decided to stop, and that was a real tragedy. But
that is a tragedy. And then again, we've had former military people on the show that say that we didn't really stop. It just went undercover. So who knows? But another question.
Don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
you
go
don't
ahead.
know. You don't know. But the fact is that, I've heard stories, too, of secret space programs and this or that, which is interesting. But the thing that I find that's really tragic is that there was a generation of children that were growing up saying by the time you're 40 or 50, you'll be able to go to the moon. It was a time when magic was really, the human race could do anything. And can you imagine if we took the same energy, the same mindset, the same magic, art and science causing change to occur in conformity to will, that we applied towards putting 3 guys up in lunar orbit and dropping 2 of them down to grab a few rocks? Can you imagine what we could do if we took that same juice and applied it to things like environmental problems, greenhouse warming, world hunger? I mean, just think of what we could do with that.
Possibilities are truly endless.
Yes. And that's what people are able to do at a global scale, but also at an individual scale. As above, so below, as within, so without. All of us are a little piece of the universe trying to figure itself out. And we all have enormous power. It's just a matter of tapping into it and applying it in the right direction.
Well, I'm loving hearing this. And here's another question. It's a card question from the chat room. This lady would like to know, what do you feel is one of the best cards to see in a reading?
They're all good. I think I answered this earlier. They're all good. It depends. It's not, there's no one card that's all glory, but there is one card that does mean every potential. That's the Fool.
Really?
Fool. Well, the Fool
potential. Okay.
Well, the Fool is the card that contains all the other cards. All the cards in the tarot are in the Fool. This is a conventional thing. The Fool, basically just is the entire tarot deck in one card. So that is all potential. So if the Fool shows up in a reading, you're looking at something which, hey, anything's possible. It can go anywhere. Everything is there for you. So that's probably, there is no best card. I have to just tell the listener that there is no best card. There's no worst card either. It all depends. But the one card that covers the whole deck is the Fool.
So the potential is there with the Fool card.
The potential is there. Unlimited potential.
Excellent. Excellent. So when people come to you for readings, how long do you speak with them? Is it an hour reading? Is it 90 minutes?
Hour is usually hour is a minimum, and it's usually what I charge by the hour, and then there's a standard rate for the first hour, and then a second. Usually 1 to 2 hours. Occasionally 3. Very seldom do I get to 3. That's when something really big is going on. There was a lady I recently did who got involved. Her father had died. I think it was her mother or father, and then the family was getting into probate. So there was a lot to go over, and it was a 3-hour reading. But usually 1 hour is enough. 1 hour is enough to pretty much cover anything, maybe 2.
Okay. Another question has come in about chakras. Do you see a correlation in the tarot cards to chakras?
I'm not in tarot cards, but in the Kabbalistic tree of life, there are different ways to draw the path that do correspond to the chakras.
Okay.
That's a complicated. I understand what they're trying to ask there. The tarot cards represent the sephira on the tree of life and the paths, and you can put them over the chakras, but not per se. Not
can you find blocks by doing a tarot reading and saying, your third chakra has a block or something like that?
It would be energy. It would be energy. It would depend. The chakras are nerve ganglions on the human body, and I think you're trying. You can't mix everything. There are correspondences, say, to the tattva symbols in tarot, which are part of a similar system. But if somebody pulls up, say, strength. In the major arcana, you could see it's not really the same thing. Okay. I would have to say no, per se. And I could see the correspondence with Kabbalistic stuff, but not with cards, per se.
Okay, and this is very active tonight. Here's another question. When you mentioned just recently that sometimes you are able to pick up on health issues.
Yes.
Does that show up in the discs? Is that where a health issue would show up? Is in that family?
It would show up throughout the entire reading.
Oh.
And I have had people. It would. And I haven't done a health reading in some time, to be honest. It's usually not what I'm asked to do. But I did do it when I was in Asia. I did quite a few, actually. And very often people would come to me with a health issue, says I'm very concerned about my health situation, and you'd go through it. And it got very accurate. But it's just because I'm not a doctor. So if someone comes to me with a health question, I'm going to talk to them, but then I'm going to recommend they go see a doctor. Just like if someone comes to me with a legal issue, I'm going to recommend they also see a lawyer. For a financial issue, they see a financial advisor after I've discussed things with them.
Right.
But, I don't give legal advice or medical advice or any advice like that. I give guidance so the person will make up their own decision and then proceed accordingly with professionals.
Right. Well, that makes sense. You want them to have the best of both worlds, but certainly with your readings, you are offering a lot of self-empowerment, a lot of insight, and also this navigational map. Here is the way you can proceed. That's so helpful. There's just so much confusion out there today, it seems, and people are desperate. But, you're offering some guidance that is very valuable. Now,
the tarot. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we only have a few minutes. I'll just answer your questions as quickly as I can.
No, I just think it's such a. it's so important to take a break from everything that's flying around us, because there's a lot. There's a lot going on around us in the world today, and it appears that, to me anyways, the tarot does give you that break. So for people who are wanting to pick up a deck and get familiar with it, it can be your meditation, as you mentioned, even with one card for 5 or 10 minutes. It can give you that break to go inside and find that power, find that deeper understanding. So I think it's a great way to find your own empowerment, to find your own solid space of who you are, what you want.
I couldn't agree more. And here's a good morning exercise. I'm a morning person. I'm up before the sun. Just the way I am.
I'm impressed.
This is actually past my bedtime. I had to have some coffee on this one. But it's okay. It's a good cause. But one thing to do is if you get up with the moon, if you get up with, it's good to get up with a planet, or some sphere. Get up with the moon, get up with the sun. If you're a night owl, or I imagine it works, but I would get up with the sun if you can. It's a beautiful thing, and there's different salutations for the sun that people can have. And I would do that little thing I gave people. I said, I am a sovereign being, I have free will, and I choose to evolve. And just pick a tarot card of a deck that you really, really like. One that, and it should be something that speaks to you, but the best ones are traditional, the ones that have the Kabbalistic colors, because they're going to be something, they're going to drill into your subconscious like nothing else. And let's say you call up a card like the Magician, the Fool, King of Swords, Knight of Swords, depending on the type of deck, and just look at that. And then maybe read a few books of what other masters have seen in that card. And just do 5 or 10 minutes of that. 10 minutes. That's nothing. 15 if you really want to go overboard. But you don't need any more than that. And that will put a little bit of magic into your day. You'll address a little bit about your being, a little bit about who you are, and you'll grow a little bit. And nothing... And nobody wins baseball by home runs. You win it by singles, remember. So you don't, having a big elaborate tarot reading every single day, you'll get tired of that very quickly. Occasionally it's good, but just one card for a meditation to start. You'll learn the deck, you'll learn the different meanings, and over time you might want to do three cards or at a time or something like that. And then it'll become part of you because it already is. It's just a matter of accepting it.
Well, that is a great...
I love that advice. Yeah.
Yes. Great idea.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. And we so appreciate you coming and spending this late night hour with us, 2 hours with us, Thomas. And again, for people who want to take your class that is coming up tomorrow at 1 o'clock, go to tarotbythomas.com. That's TAROT. by Thomas, THOMAS.com. You can sign up for the class, and you can also get a hold of Thomas to schedule a reading, which I highly recommend because, Thomas, you are one great reader. So, again, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us and our wonderful audience this evening. It's been a great show, and please let us know when your book is available. We want to read it. We want to have you back for that.
There's a couple of them right now, but because I've been involved in publishing for so many years, I've been helping other people with their books. But now I'm finally taking the time to get my own out there. But Patricia, Helena, it's been wonderful. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad I've had a chance to share some of what I've learned over the many decades with these 78. I don't know why I keep saying 72 for some reason or something, but 78 little, pieces of paper that can really mean a lot to people and change their lives in the most positive of ways.
Well, it's wonderful. You have a real gift, and it's so nice that you're sharing it with people in the world today. And again, we really appreciate your time tonight. Come on, Supernatural Girls Radio, and please keep us posted on your books and other adventures. We want to know, and we want to have you back.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Helene, that was a great show. Goodness.
Well, he kept me in rapt attention. It's obvious that his interest, his absolute dedication to learning, the entire history and just the symbolism, everything about the cards has really led him to an amazing path where he's able to actually transfer his knowledge into the idea that people are powerful. And that's something that you always try to teach people, and I always try to teach people. And we just sometimes don't realize how powerful we truly are. And tarot is an amazing guide post in the universe for us to focus on. And it's so interesting to me that everybody has kind of a different perspective on it, but he really kept it right on target, you know. It's amazing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's a very impressive person, but his willingness to share his information and his insight, and like I said, when he did the reading for me the other day, it was really down to brass tacks, which I so appreciate, knowing what is the steps here, you know, what are the energies here that you have to help me master, and it was just so insightful. I just can't say enough good things about Thomas Michael Caldwell. Great reader, great expert in this field, and again, sharing his life story with us. What an exciting life he's led. What an adventure.
Exciting life. Amazing. But I was truly impressed with him, and I hope people go to his website, tarotbythomas.com. Yeah.
Yes, everybody. Please pay his website a visit, and don't hesitate to set up a reading with him. You will not be disappointed. It's quite an experience. So, Helene, it's a wonderful show that I shared with you and you shared with me, and I hope you'll be coming back. And we're talking about possibly changing the night and having Patricia Kirkman come on and do some celebrity numerology at every show. So there's going to be some exciting changes.
Lots of changes. Yeah, lots of changes, and it'll all be good.
Yeah, so all be good. We embrace change. That's the lesson.
Yeah, and prayers out to Becky again. We send her prayers and love her and think of her every day. So. That's
right. Becky, you're still a part of the team, and we hope you get better and feel better very soon. Mm-hmm. Well, good night, Helene.
Good night, Patricia. It's been great. Thank you.
And good night, everybody in our audience. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to have another wonderful show. Be sure to check the website because we will more than likely be changing the date and time. And so just go to supernaturalgirls.com. Make sure you're signed up for the newsletter so that you will be one of the first to get our new announcements. Good night.
Good night.